Welcome on in to your wrestling podcast, or should it be vidcast? I don't know, whatever you want to call it. On From the Bleachers Sports Show. This is a podcast vidcast that I like to call Cleanpin, and this is episode 2 of Cleanpin. We're going to try to fit 5 pounds of bologna in a 1 pound bag, as I like to say it, covering various topics, news and headlines, thoughts, a little bit of recaps here and there, or thoughts rather from, certain segments of TV shows this past week and news and all that stuff from videos from this week and, maybe a little bit from the prior week that I was not able to cover in my weekly videos, and this is kind of just a way to kind of dedicate some time for all the wrestling news, since we are quote unquote, I wouldn't say a wrestling boom, but an area where there is so much to watch as far as wrestling goes. This guy just walks in the middle of the damn road. Anyway, shall we begin? On this channel, if you're new here, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Check out my other 2 channels, Tom Brand One Thoughts. I'm going to change that name. That really doesn't flow off the tongue, but that's a kind of a vlog, famous places, trips, all types of randomness. And the Tom Brand One, which is a comedy channel, at least I like to think it is, of little sketches, jokes, and so on and so forth. So Cleanpin, here we go, episode number 2. And I think when you look at, by the way, as you can tell, this is not professional. I hope to start doing this, live stream and so on and so forth. But for the time being, this is just kind of put together from my car as I'm doing my commute. So lighting is horrible. Not that you want to see my face anyway. But as I was saying, wrestling, I think the big news from this past week was CM Punk debuting on Fox Sports 1 WWE Backstage. And man, it's correct me if I'm wrong. You guys wanted to see CM Punk. You got him. You got him. You got CM Punk. You got him. Now, a lot of fans, the internet community, was upset, abuzz, that, WWE ruined it for them. It wasn't, why didn't they do it on Raw? Why didn't they announce him on SmackDown? He came out, he would have gotten a massive pop, so on and so forth. Pump the brakes, guys. Jesus. You guys want instant gratification. Instant gratification. How long did it take you guys just to get to this point with CM Punk? Dude, listen, CM Punk has been, now, who knows this is true or not? And I'll just take it for what CM Punk said. And why would you have reason not to believe him? But he's been saying pretty much that he's not been watching any real professional wrestling. He's been decompressing, in a sense. Now, taking on this job, Fox Sports 1, I'm sure he's going to have to start watching wrestling now, and he's going to have to start watching that WWE product again to be able to come off as educational in regards to what is currently going on with the product. So, the point is that this guy, whether you agree with him or you don't, he has been left with such a bad, sour taste in his mouth that he, didn't want anything to do with wrestling, even though that is his bread and butter. He's tried, he's done MMA, he's done comic books, he starred in movies. Guys, he's hated wrestling, or he doesn't want to deal with wrestling. Be happy that you got CM Punk. You get to see him on TV. You get to see him on TV. Listen, yes, it took Fox Sports, I'm sure, a brink truck to get him on. But he's on. I'm sure eventually down the road, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, eventually he will get there. Baby steps, guys. Baby steps. I equate it to, a situation where, let's say, you're a kid. You have this best friend in elementary school, and, your best friend is playing with your Optimus Prime figure, and he breaks your Optimus Prime. You loved Optimus Prime. He breaks that one Optimus Prime figure that you have, and you're mad at him. You hate him. You hate his guts. You curse at him. You wanna hit him. You wanna break all his toys. And now, finally, after all this time, you have finally started to, I wouldn't say forget, maybe forgive a little. So let it play out. Let it play out. This does not have to happen all in one shot. Let it play out. Be happy that you got CM Punk this far. Jeez, I don't know if you guys, I personally never thought that you would even see CM Punk on any type of WWE programming now. And listen, even though you already seen him on WWE Backstage, if he walks out in the arena, don't worry, it wasn't ruined. He will still get a massive pop. He will still get a massive pop. Okay. Oh, and everyone's saying that, CM Punk sold out, dude, CM Punk did not sell out. I think a lot of people, a lot of AEW fans are all upset that CM Punk did not go to AEW. Well, what can I tell you guys? What can I tell you? Maybe CM Punk is not interested in fighting. Maybe that's all they had for CM Punk. Who knows? That's why he didn't sign with AEW. Maybe AEW didn't reach out to CM Punk in a professional manner. And maybe that turned off CM Punk. Who knows? But please, relax already. Fans just sometimes find anything to complain about. Relax, give it time. I'm sure you guys will be able to give CM Punk his moment. I'm sure. Relax. Baby steps. Baby steps. This is going to take a lot of work patching up this relationship. And I'm sure Triple H eventually will do it. Bury the hatchet. Look, did you ever expect Ultimate Warrior back in a WWE ring? No, exactly. It was noted that the Miz and Paige, they announced this on WWE Backstage. Miz and Paige have both re-signed their contracts with WWE. You look at the Miz, for example, just talking about the Miz, you could put jeez, man. Talk about non-professional. And I want to give Miz his props. Who would have thought from Real World, watching him on Real World, to where he is now? This guy, right now he's like kind of just there for me. He's just there. But you can't deny some of his prior works. You know, his whole interaction with Damien Sandow, Mizdow from a few years ago. You know, that was not all Sandow. That had something to do with Miz as well. We played a part in that. To his time with John Morrison in the tag team. To his feud with John Cena from a few years ago. And, you know, the money, like, he could work with anyone. I think right now he is better suited as a heel than he is as a face. That combination that when them and Maurice are together, that's golden. So I think it's a solid pickup, and congratulations to the Miz. Miz could pretty much, I think, work with anyone, and that's good because, you know, he was being knocked around and not being able to stay in the locker room with all the other veterans when he first came out, you know, because he was looked upon as an outcast, and he's kind of earned his keep. And this guy really is durable. Like, he has never really been injured. He hasn't. You know, I also like that group that he had with Miz and Axel and Paul Dallas. I thought that was good too. I think, you know, Miz is good, but Miz is even better when he has someone to work off of, bounce off of. This is kind of why I think Miz right now, to me, is a little stale. And you know, that happens. There are highs and lows with every character. But this is a good signing. The Miz is very durable, whether it be low, mid-card. You know, I think with Miz, he's able often to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. So congratulations to the Miz on his new contract that he signed. And Paige as well. You know, speaking of WWE Backstage too, a lot of guys, the internet wrestling community are, and again, I know it's the hot topic, the kind of crap all over the WWE. You know, because certain parts of Raw have been bad, certain parts of SmackDown have been bad. But listen, certain parts of AEW have been bad, have been really, and now I'll get into a few things. NWA, that's just not bad at all, because that to me has been perfect. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm huge into the NWA. Check out my NWA video, which is underneath here. I'll link all my wrestling videos under this description here. But, you know, listen, guys, people, just to go back, WWE Backstage has brought in the CM Punk to save their ratings, to save them from an abysmal show, is what everyone is saying. Guys, I don't know what you expect. Well, what do you think Fox Sports expect from this type of a show? And listen, the more ratings that they could get, the better. But just what exactly do you think they're expecting? This is a show that's on, Tuesday night? Fox Sports 1, kind of down the dial. At 11:30, the show is on. It's not on during prime time, folks. So let's turn back, let's put that in perspective. What type of ratings do you expect at that hour of the day? What type of rating do you think Fox Sports expects? I'll tell you, nothing like what the internet wrestling community and some podcasters think that it should. I think that's a little unrealistic, and I think a lot of people just that cool narrative, the cool thing is just a crap on the WWE, which is not. Come on. Speaking of AEW, I caught AEW, and you know, AEW Full Gear. My thoughts on that pay-per-view, and the match that everyone was talking about. First of all, that pay-per-view really what saved, I think, if I were to give that pay-per-view a grade, just an overall out of 10. Now, first of all, it's hard to give a show 10. That's that has to be the highest of the high type of expectation. So very rarely would I give a show a 10. But if I were to give that show a grade, I don't know, maybe 6 out of 10 for a pay-per-view. The first couple of matches there, really what saved it is, I think, to get it to at least a 6, which is, it's the last two matches in Jericho with Cody, and then you had Moxley versus Omega. Prior to that, there were some things that I did not, some things I really didn't get with that Full Gear pay-per-view. The lights constantly go off with AEW. Constantly go off. As if, this is like The Undertaker coming out. It went off in one instances of the pay-per-view for a reappearance of Christopher Daniels from SCU. Yeah, I mean, Christopher Daniels was was just here. I mean, that was the big reveal. That was the big surprise. You gotta cool down with the constant on and off of the lights. Christopher Daniels. I like the reemergence of Kia Stevens. That I liked. I like the demonic sociopath, cutting hair, keeping it as souvenirs, just being a monster. And that is exactly how she needs to be. A monster. So I like that from the Full Gear pay-per-view. I didn't like the Hangman Page. I didn't like the Pac interaction. It was just something was missing from that match. It just was too slow, too sluggish. Really didn't do anything for me. Didn't do anything for me. I look at and I get it. When you look at a Young Bucks match, it is what it is. But, that match made, no complete, story, logically, the story, what they were trying to tell, it just made no sense to me. My head, I didn't know what was going on. Young Bucks were doing heel moves. Santana and Ortiz were playing up to the crowd to get an ovation. And it was back and forth, no real rhyme or reason. There was a spot there with the ref where Ortiz and Santana are trying to make a tag, and the ref pretends that he doesn't see it, and that's usually a spot for that's like usually a face spot, a face team. So that you gotta watch that match. That match made no sense to me whatsoever. The last two matches, as you're falling down here, the last two matches. Did I tell you this is unprofessional? There you go. The last two matches, you might argue, saved the pay-per-view from most. Because when I was looking on Twitter and Facebook, man, that match was really not getting any type of... that pay-per-view was not really getting any types of thumbs up until the last two matches came in. Now, I'll tell you this. Moxley versus Omega. I think, especially Moxley, the type of match that he had, knowing his background with CZW, I think he'd probably tell you that match was probably his best work. He'd probably tell you that was one of his best works. Or at the very least, that he enjoyed that match. I think that Kenny Omega would tell you the same thing, that he enjoyed that match. They both, especially Moxley, with his background in CZW, I think that's a match that he was waiting for ever since he was in the WWE. He wasn't able to have that type of a match ever since, even on the indies, he wasn't able to really have that match. Might ask, how come he didn't go back to CZW? Well, sometimes it's about the money. I don't think CZW maybe even had that type of money to pay Moxley. But I think this is a type of match that Moxley has wanted to have for quite a long time. And he had it. Now, was it gruesome? Was it barbaric? I've seen worse. Was this match necessary between the two? I think with the storyline, what it was, and don't get me wrong, there was some, you could tell that there was hatred in that storyline. Definitely was. But I would have held back on that type of a match a little while longer. That being said, I really didn't have a problem with that match being made. Hey, I would have waited, but I don't have a problem with that style of a match. And it keeps things fresh. You throw something into that soup, a different recipe, and if it works well, you have a good tasting soup. If it doesn't, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Now, was that a good match? Does it end the feud? I believe so, it does. I think that's the end of the feud. For now, anyway. Heck, I'd even argue that the match with Dustin and with Cody was actually worse. with the amount of blood that was in that match. That was actually worse, guys. That does not even compare with this. And with this blood, violence, simulated violence, you had the internet, certain people on the internet, a buzz and saying that this match is uncalled for, complaining. This is where you gotta be careful. I'm glad that AEW and Tony Khan this time did not respond to all the backlash. Last time, they tried to took out the they tried to clear away the fire, and they kind of looked a little bit silly, kind of exposed themselves. Point I'm trying to make: try to save these matches for special occasions, because it's just going to get to a point, especially in the beginning, where people constantly complain and complain and complain and complain, and you have to deal with the complaints. And that's not necessarily good when you're just off the ground running as a new company. But I'm glad, AEW stood their ground. I would have used this match, have this type of a match further down the road. Thought it was a little bit too early, too rushed, but I really had no problem with the match. And it is a TV 14 rating for a reason, guys. It is a TV 14 rating for a reason. AEW also had, on Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite. I just want to give you my couple of thoughts here on AEW Dynamite. Shawn Spears. And listen, I know Shawn Spears is trying. He's definitely trying. I just don't see the connection between Tully Blanchard and Shawn Spears. He's supposedly mentoring him, but how is he mentoring him? You really don't see that thing going on, on the outside of the ring. I need to know how. I need to know more about the connection with Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard. I need to know more about the characters of AEW. I need to know more about the characters. I think AEW is not spending enough time explaining these characters and who they are. Nia Rose came out. You remember Nia Rose? The monster, dominating woman who was just so close and being the first women's champion. Came up a little bit short. And since that time that she's lost, she's seemingly been nowhere to be found. When you're nowhere to be found for quite some time and then you reappear, the audience has a short-term memory. Out of sight, out of mind. Did you check out that lack of reaction for Nia Rose? You can't be doing that. If you're gonna if you're going to devote some time to a character, especially this so early, you can't really, especially after that monster push that she got, you can't be on 1 week, out the next. Marco Stunt, another one. Got no reaction to me. He got no reaction. Luchasaurus is back. He's going to be a star. Warlow is back. Interested to see that pairing of how Warlow would be with MJF. MJF right now, and I like that interaction with that he had with Chris Jericho. Don't that remind you when Jericho and Kevin Owens said at the end of that promo, Roman Reigns, and they both said in this promo, Cody Rhodes. Listen, MJF, it's going to be an interesting pairing between him and Warlow. Interested to see how that plays out. MJF, money on the mic. And you can tell he's going to be one of these bright stars down the road. But yeah, you gotta, then listen, again, it's noticeable that some of these wrestlers are getting no reaction because I don't think AEW is spending that much time in trying to develop these characters. Remember that I think AEW sometimes forgets that they have only been on the TV for 8 episodes, is it? Less, a little bit less. That they've been only around for a short period of time. And, listen, I'm sure AEW knows that. I'm sure they see it. I'm sure they want to change it somehow. Look, case in point, they're piping in sound. They're piping in audience reactions, clapping. Did you look at it? It was a little bit too evident how they were trying to pump it in, because it didn't match. The reaction didn't match. The noise didn't match with the audience. A little bit too evident. Those are just, and to me, it didn't make sense, and because, right now, again, AEW saying that it's supposed to be this alternative to WWE, that they're going to be different. Well, how are they different? It never seems to be a clean finish on the main event. I'm trying to understand how Jericho and Guevara get a tag team shot last night on on Dynamite. Speaking of something that has changed, and this, I guess, two sides of a coin here. In a conference call, Nick Jackson, and one of the Young Bucks, said that come January, they're going to be resetting their wins and loss records. So I could see how, if you're looking at this from fantasy-wise, all right, come January, you reset wins and losses. So if you had a rough, bad year with far as your record, you're turning a new page, you're starting from scratch. But I guess I'm supposed to have suspension of disbelief. The only question here that I have is there is no off season. There is no off season in wrestling. There is no timeout in wrestling. It goes, week to week. There's no break. So how, but I guess you got to do that. You got to say that you're resetting wins and losses for from a booking standpoint. I get it. That way you don't pin yourself in a corner. But the only thing is why are we setting if there's no such thing as seasons? There is no off season. It's a continuous thing. So that's just that things that sometimes don't add up to me. Things like that. So not for nothing. And listen, I know it's a couple of episodes in, and I think AEW, how they're different. I mean, I really don't see how they're different that much than WWE. It's like WWE. Light, I guess. The only difference is, I don't know, the characters aren't fully developed. Like, you need to develop these characters. That's the thing with AEW. You need to develop these characters, and that way people are invested. That's what was on my mind from wrestling this past week. Hopefully I covered enough throughout the week. Again, I will make wrestling news videos as the week progresses. I also cover other sports, so you could definitely take a peek at them as well. So this has been episode 2 of Cleanpin. If you have any comments, any questions, please let me know. And I look forward for a Cleanpin next week, Thursday. I hope all is well, and I look forward to speaking to you guys very, very soon.